This is the new 2025 Cadillac Celestiq, and it's a full-size luxury car intended to compete with the very best from Rolls-Royce and Bentley. That may seem ambitious for a Cadillac, but this is an ultra-limited production car with a starting price of around $400,000 and with endless customization options. And this thing has presence on the road. Today, I'm going to review the new Cadillac Celestiq and show you all of its quirks and features. Before we get started, are you ready for your next cool car? Sell your enthusiast car on Cars and Bids. Trading in your car to dealers means you aren't getting market value for your car, leaving you with less cash for your next fun car. Just look at our recent sales of these cool cars compared to current trade-in value. This is a trade-in offer, and this was the Cars and Bids result. This is a trade-in offer, and this was the Cars and Bids result. This is the trade-in offer, and this is the Cars and Bids result. Get started now on carsandbids.com. Sell on Cars and Bids and join the best community to sell your enthusiast car. All right, time for the quirks and features of the Celestiq, starting with a little history. There was a time when Cadillac billed itself as the standard of the world. And even though this title was self-proclaimed, it was also true. Throughout the 1930s and 40s, Cadillac built some of the most impressive, desirable luxury cars on the planet. In the 1950s, the Eldorado Brougham was the most expensive car in the world. Cadillac really did set the standard for luxury across the globe. And then things started to change a little bit. And this car intends to bring it back, to return Cadillac to the standard of the world. So how are they going to do that? What exactly is the Celestiq? Well, this is a full-size luxury sedan with a starting price of right around $400,000. That's for the 26 model year. For 25, the starting price was around $360,000, but it's been increased for 26, and it now starts around $400,000. That puts this car squarely in competition with the best from Bentley, Rolls-Royce, Maybach, all the big names in luxury. Now, when I say full-size luxury sedan, I really mean it. This car is longer than the Cadillac Escalade, and it weighs in right around 6,500 pounds. It's also fully electric, so its closest competitor really is probably the Rolls-Royce Spectre, which is Rolls' new fully electric. That's a two-door coupe, but the idea is similar. Ultra luxury with an electric powertrain. So how do they justify a $400,000 price tag for a Cadillac? We begin with the design, the style. This car is truly striking. It is a very interesting, engaging, exciting design to look at. Basically looks like nothing else on the road. I haven't been completely sold on the Celestiq's design, but seeing it in person, I think it really is a knockout. It's crazy and it attracts a lot of attention. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Amazingly, it's also a hatchback. Cadillac calls this a sedan, but the rear opens like a hatchback, like a Porsche Panamera. They say the design is intended to be more of a fastback, and indeed, that helps give this car its distinctive look. I asked Cadillac, why a hatchback for a luxury car this price point and stature? And they said that this design began as a sketch on a wall at the GM Design Center, and things just sort of went from there. And the overall profile, the shape of the car, always stayed pretty true to that initial sketch, giving this car its striking look. But there's so much more to the Celestiq than just its design. In fact, probably the two biggest hallmarks of this car are materials quality and customization. We'll start with some interesting materials quirks. Around the tailgate area, every other car, this piece is just plastic, not something you really even notice. In this car, it's billet aluminum that is heated all the way to its melting point and then formed to perfectly fit this shape so that it can ring the tailgate. Again, this is plastic in every other car, but in this car they do all that and then they machine finish it to get exactly the texture that they want. Amazingly, they've also used billet aluminum for the rocker panels going down the side of the car. Usually I'm talking about how these are carbon fiber plastic, billet aluminum here. And the upper grille trim, this piece here is also finished in billet aluminum, the same material, which you just don't see anywhere else. Next up, how about we move inside to the steering wheel? This chrome piece on the steering wheel, polished aluminum in fact, is hand polished over a period of weeks in order to get exactly the finish they want. And these little designs that are cut into each button, Cadillac told me in order to get the precision they were looking for, to have them be perfectly backlit, they had to use surgical instrumentation. It was the only thing they could find that could give them that level of precision. Move on to the interior trim, which you'll notice has this kind of odd sort of checkerboard pattern. That is made from recycled newsprint all throughout the interior. This is completely customizable. You can change it to be whatever you want, but recycled newsprint in this car. And if you look really closely at some of the squares, you can even see letters. Obviously a little bit of a sustainability story there, but it's also just plain cool. And how about the fact that on basically every fastener, every screw in this car, it says standard of the world, recalling that old Cadillac slogan that this car is trying to bring back. You can see that, again, basically every little fastener you look at that's exposed and visible, it's printed standard of the world. So that's some of the story on materials for this car. More to come throughout this video, but next, let's move on to the Celestiq's other hallmark, customization. Cadillac says that every single Celestiq will be built to order. There's not going to be just stock units sitting at dealers. They will all be built to a customer-specific specification, and they will all be hand-built in a process that takes many weeks to complete each individual car. In fact, Cadillac says that at their current production capacity, they are finishing fewer than 2 of these per day. That's how long it takes to build. They haven't quoted a total production amount of these cars, how many they're going to build, but you kind of get the idea of how many they can possibly build if that's their production constraint. That's the level of hand-built required for this car. Now, since each car is built to order, that means each customer gets to choose the color for their cars. Cadillac has about 90 options on hand. You can choose between glossy or matte finish for all 90 of them, but you can also bring your own color, your paint to sample, if you will. You can choose exactly what you want, and Cadillac will make it work. That's not that unusual, but how about this? Cadillac will do the same with materials. If you have a favorite leather, a favorite handbag, a favorite cloth, whatever, and you want it to be in some spot inside the car, Cadillac says they will do everything in their power to make that happen. Obviously, you can't change some regulatory stuff, some safety stuff, but otherwise, you can bring your own material and Cadillac will get it in the car and customize it for you. That's the level of customization we're talking about. In fact, this car is so customizable in so many different areas that Cadillac is encouraging customers who order one to actually visit the Cadillac House on the GM Tech Center campus here in Detroit in order to make the final configurations for their cars. Here at Cadillac House, you have all of the leather samples, the colors, the materials, everything that you might possibly want to choose from that Cadillac offers, and you can sit down, see it all in one place, and visualize it in order to complete your Celestiq order. They're hoping all the customers will come here and actually do that process, which is pretty crazy. And with that in mind, you might be wondering, who's buying this car? They've already been delivering some Celestiq models. Who are they selling to? Cadillac told me so far it's virtually all been business owners buying this car and people who are excited about the idea of American luxury rather than your German or your British, which is fairly typical. Cadillac's also told me it's a mix in terms of users. Some people buying it to park and rarely drive and put in a collection, whereas some people are buying it as an everyday, daily driver, usable car. Okay, so all of that stuff is quirky in its own right, but let's talk through some of the quirks and features, the Easter eggs that make cars like this so interesting.
And we start with the doors. You walk up and you don't see door handles, and that's not because
they've hidden them behind some pop-out panel, there simply are no door handles. The doors open automatically, and you open them with a button located next to the door. You can see this one here on the B pillar. You push it, and the front doors open right up as expected, and that's also how they close. You push the button, and the front doors close right up, again, automatically and electronically. And of course, it's the same deal in back, except the button is located back here. You push it, and the back door opens up automatically, no handle involved. When you want to close it, press the button again, and the door closes. No boring regular car door handles here. It's even true for the tailgate, where you open it by pushing the Cadillac logo, which serves as a giant hidden button, a bit of a clever Easter egg to give you access to the cargo area. Same deal when you want the tailgate closed. You just push on the Cadillac logo and it comes down automatically. No typical handles anywhere on this car. As for the front compartment, opening it is a bit more traditional. You press the key fob button twice and it pops open automatically, as you can see. And as it opens, it reveals a front trunk which is once again surrounded by this special machine finished aluminum everywhere. A gorgeous look inside the front trunk, just like in back. And you'll notice it's even carpeted, not with regular cheap trunk matting carpet like other cars use, but rather with identical carpet that matches the interior, which really underscores the attention to detail and quality in this car. As for size, this is a small front trunk, but big enough to hold your charging cables or your car cover that comes with the car. Anyway, other interesting exterior quirks. Let's start with the Cadillac Goddess, which appears here on this panel on the front fender on the side of the car. The Goddess was a hood ornament that used to appear on Cadillac models back in the day when they really were the standard of the world. The Goddess has been revived on this car, and she lights up at night. The panel lights up at night, illuminating the Goddess to try to emphasize exactly what this car means to Cadillac. Over on the other side, the Goddess is also present, and she also lights up, but interestingly, she's positioned next to a button mounted on this aluminum panel. Press that button, and it opens up the charge port door so that you can plug in your Celestiq. Another interesting exterior quirk is the lighting welcome sequence, which you can see here. The lights do an excited dance to celebrate you walking up to the car, with even some hidden lights inside the grille illuminating just to honor your presence as you approach. Of course, the headlights and turn signals get in on the action too. And then there's the rear lights, which are absolutely bizarre. The upper rear light stretches basically several feet down the side of the car. Very unusual design. It's huge and surprisingly placed in this spot. Also weird is the turn signal in back. When it flashes, the upper and lower lights flash, massive signals that indicate to basically anyone in any reasonable vicinity exactly what you plan to do for your next turn. And next up, we move back inside where the crazy continues. Let's start by just admiring this interior. It is absolutely beautiful in here. Gorgeous layout and design, but even better are the materials. Just top quality, high-end stuff everywhere you look, with very little attention to detail spared on basically anything. Every single piece of this interior, in every place you could possibly see, is really nice, really upscale, really luxurious, fitting this car's price tag, honestly, which surprised me, but I'm sitting in here and it really does look the part like it should. An absolutely beautiful interior from the Celestiq. And, as you might imagine, there are some pretty wild quirks and features in here. Let's start with the glass roof panel, which is a smart roof, meaning that you can brighten or dim the roof. You can make it like fully see-through and transparent or completely opaque, depending on how much light you want to let in. The crazy part is this roof can be adjusted by quadrant, one for each seat, and they all have 5 different brightness settings, which means that each individual seat occupant can choose exactly how much light they want to be let in through their particular glass panel that corresponds to each seat. And yes, you can have all of them be completely different if that's what the occupants of this vehicle want, which is crazy. And also crazy, at night, the entire glass roof panel situation has a design that lights up throughout it, kind of gives an interesting vibe and an interesting mood when you're at night coming from the roof panel. You can see that design is like the Cadillac lines that you will also see in other spots, like on the speakers on the door panel, and in various other places throughout the the car and throughout other electric Cadillac models. This is sort of like their theme, these lines. So it appears on the roof at night. Next up, here's an interesting quirk, the climate vents in this car. You will notice this big bar across the dashboard, climate vents integrated in there, but no little switches where you can position the vents. That's because they're positioned inside this lower infotainment screen, and you can use it to adjust the vents and place them exactly where you want. That's pretty interesting, but the really cool part is you can set the vents to oscillate, meaning when you turn on this setting, the vents will sort of slowly blow back and forth throughout the interior, making sure you're just not getting blown air on all the time. You're only getting like a little bit of wafting air, which is really cool. And how about this? This car has heated seats, no surprise. It also comes with heated armrests. You turn on the heated seat, the armrests heat up too. That's even not that crazy, but the really cool part is that when you turn on the heating, you get a little warm current of air blown from the headrest onto the back of your neck to keep it warm in addition to all the other stuff. Now, Mercedes-Benz offers this feature called Air Scarf on its convertible models. I have never seen it in a closed car before. A warming puff of air onto your neck. That's really cool. And next up, how about this? The stereo system in this vehicle has 38 speakers. 38 speaker stereo in here, including multiple speakers on the headrest. Each headrest, front and rear, gets speakers on both sides of your head directly for each ear to provide the optimal listening experience. And the quirks continue. Go into the center console and you can see you have these panels, and there's a little aluminum strip that sticks up. You push that, open the panels, it reveals the cup holder, the one cup holder, but on the inside of these panels you can see there are profile images of 3 cars. These are historic Cadillac models. The first one is the 1934 aerodynamic coupe. The second one is the 57 Eldorado Brougham, kind of the standard of the world Cadillac in everybody's mind. And of course, the next one is the Celestiq. And Cadillac told me there's even a little Easter egg within this Easter egg, because the 34 aerodynamic coupe has the Cadillac goddess on the front grille, a tiny little representation of the goddess to go along with the ones on the fenders. And you will also notice the goddess here in the center on this knob that controls the infotainment screen. And it's actually pretty cool because as you move the knob and rotate it around, you will see that the goddess doesn't move. She stays put even though you're moving the knob to control, so the goddess is always facing the correct direction. Now, since we're talking infotainment controls, let's talk infotainment screen. You have an absolutely massive one mounted on the top of the dashboard in this car. It spans from pillar to pillar, the entire width of this vehicle, and you can really use this infotainment screen to do anything. Obviously, directly in front of the driver, it shows your typical gauge kind of stuff, like the gear you're in, the speed you're going, etc. But the rest of it is configurable, and you can show the map, the music, everything at once you might want to see is all visible on this screen. Over on the passenger side, there's even a separate passenger entertainment screen where the passenger can choose from one of different entertainment apps. You have to be using headphones to actually get sound from this, but the passenger can watch stuff on that part of the screen. It's so big that you still have all this other stuff displayed on the rest of it. It is a pretty impressive kind of interior dominating screen. Now, as you can see, there is also a lower screen in this interior, and this one is a little bit more functional. It has more of your controls that you might be using since it's closer and easier to touch. So like this is where your climate controls are located. You can turn on your heated seat, your massaging seat, of course, is in this screen, various safety controls for the car. But this screen also has a few tricks. Like for instance, it can control the doors. You can use this screen to open and close the doors, both front and rear, so that if someone gets in, they don't want to close their own door, you don't have to get out and do it. You can do it all from the screen, open and close. And by the way, speaking of doors, one other interesting thing, it's amazing to me, truly amazing, that Cadillac placed this aluminum trim piece here in the spot between the doors where the seatbelt comes out. Nobody ever pays this spot any attention because you can't really see it. It's not really in the line of sight in front seat passengers, and for rear passengers, it's blocked by the front seats. But Cadillac still chose to go the extra mile and put this high quality aluminum piece here, which really shows the commitment to the level of detail that they wanted for this car's luxury. In fact, look above that. You can see it's even aluminum, the little label that shows where the side curtain an airbag is located. That's plastic on every other car, or maybe just like kind of etched into the plastic trim. Here it is an aluminum piece mounted on this Alcantara B-pillar. Everything is high quality in this car. And then we move into the back seat of the Celestiq, which is of course very large, a big car. There's a lot of space back here to spread out, hang out. And I will say one thing about the hatchback design is it makes this rear seat feel a lot more airy and open. Since the back's open to the cargo area, you got the big window on the tailgate, it really does feel pretty open in this interior owing to that hatchback design. So that's one benefit of the kind of unusual hatchback body style that this car has. Now, you get inside the back and you are greeted by 3 screens. Let's start with the middle one, which is basically all of your controls. It controls the doors. You can use it to open or close the doors. That's no surprise. You can do that up front, but it also controls a lot of other stuff, like for instance, the temperature. You can adjust all your climate settings back here. And this screen also controls the seats. Here's something crazy. Cadillac says that all 4 seats in this car are 20-way power seats, and you don't get some penalty because you're sitting in the back. You still have the same level of power back here, an adjustment that you do up front. Now, interestingly, these seats are completely controlled in this screen, which is actually a bit clumsy. To go into the controls, it's several layers of menus just to get to the adjustment settings, but when you do, it's pretty cool. You actually slide your finger to adjust the seat pretty much exactly where you want to put it, and you can do this for all of the different adjustments. It's kind of strange using a screen for all the controls. It corresponds to exactly what your seat then does to mimic what's on the screen. Now, also back here with these seats, you have full massaging functions, just like you did up front. Again, they didn't want the rear seats to lose anything compared to the front, and you have all of your heating and cooling functions. So heated rear seats, cooled rear seats, heated armrests like you had up front, and even that neck warmer air coming out of the rear headrest also appears back here, just like in front. Cadillac tells me they call it a microclimate for each seat, where you can truly tailor the climate experience to exactly what you want, regardless of which position you're sitting in. And there's still more. This screen also includes a feature called Conversation Enhance. And when you turn that on, the speakers will help to amplify your voice, the rear seat passenger's voice, to the front seat passengers so that they can hear you a little bit better while you're driving down the road. Even though this car is very quiet, that could be very useful. Now, your other screens back here, you can see 2 large screens mounted on the backs of the front seats. No surprise, those are entertainment screens. They come with built-in entertainment apps, and you can just turn it on and hook up headphones and then watch whatever you want. And the front passenger also has that screen, so you could all be watching different stuff here, assuming, of course, that the driver is watching the road. And then there's the quality. Even in back, the materials back here are really unbelievable. For example, I'm shocked that they went to the trouble of putting aluminum on all of the hinges throughout the rear, including in this rear center storage compartment, which isn't going to be used that often. You're not going to see it that often, but it's still aluminum hinged in here. And how about putting this little strip of aluminum trim right here between the screen and the armrests, just to match the other central aluminum trim all throughout the rest of this rear center console. But just this little strip, you wouldn't notice if it wasn't there, but it is, and it's just amazing detail. And how about check this out? On this little piece, this looks like a button. It's actually a coat hanger, and if you look closely, you can see it says Standard of the World printed into the metal on the coat hanger. It really is crazy. And how about this detail? On the little leather grab handle that you can use to help get in and out of the car, if you pull that out, you can look underneath and you can see once again those Cadillac lines, the line logos that they use in various places. They're printed under the rear grab handle, and so is the word Celestiq etched into the aluminum trim here. It's amazing they went to the trouble of bothering to do that, but they did. And in fact, this is one of the very few places that Celestiq actually appears on this car, underneath the aluminum trim on the rear grab handle. By the way, one other interesting rear detail, there is a rear sunshade in this car, like you might expect for a lot of luxury vehicles, but because this is a hatchback with a cargo area, the sunshade's on the tailgate. You press in the screen to raise or lower it, and then it raises or lowers. It's kind of an odd sunshade function, but you gotta have a sunshade if you got a big luxury car, and so this one does. And then there's the cargo area. You open up the tailgate, you look at the cargo area, you can see it is a pretty big cargo area. It's not particularly tall owing to the sloping height of this car, but it's decent size. You can get good stuff back here, although you will have to lift it pretty high over a surprisingly high load floor. Obviously, this car wasn't intended to be extra ultimate practical, but it does have a decent sized cargo area. One drawback though to this cargo area being open, it gives you that airy interior feel, but of course, if you have something rolling around back here, it could easily roll through into the interior because there's no divider between the seats and the cargo area to keep cargo in place. Now, one interesting quirk of the cargo area, the floor, the carpeted floor, you can lift it up with this strap. You can see a leather strap that, again, the fastener says standard of the world. They really printed that where they could, even if you'll never notice it. But anyway, you lift the strap, you lift up the floor, and you can see it actually stays put in its lifted position. Like there's a stopper to make sure it doesn't fall down. You never see that. And under the floor, there's a little space for some cargo. Not a huge amount of space under here, but enough if you want to keep stuff private or if you want to have a place for your charging cables, which is what's in this bag. And speaking of the charging cables, I've gone through all the quirks and features of this car, but I haven't gone through the powertrain. So here are the details. Like I mentioned, fully electric. There's no gasoline engine, not as a plug-in hybrid, not optional in any capacity. Full electric, and it has 655 horsepower and about 645 pound-feet of torque. This comes standard with all-wheel drive, and it does 0 to 60 in about 3.7 seconds, which is really quick. Although it's not necessarily the point of this car, it still does offer pretty good performance. As for range, Cadillac says just over 300 miles of fully electric range before you gotta charge up your Celestiq again. So there you go, the quirks and features, but just as interesting about this car is the way that it drives. How does a $400,000 ultra luxury Cadillac feel behind the wheel? Let's go find out. All right, driving the Celestiq. And I gotta tell you, I've been a little bit of a Celestiq skeptic. I'm not as much anymore. I still don't think that this car is going to be a huge success. I think a $400,000 Cadillac is by definition probably going to find a pretty small audience, and I think that this car is going to sort of end up like the XJ220, where it was this ambitious project that was this incredibly beautiful thing, very special, well known, but ultimately kind of flopped. The difference, I think, between the XJ220 and this is good. And I mean, this is like seriously good. So one of the things I was skeptical about, can Cadillac actually make a world-class car at a $400,000 price point? You're talking about competing with the very finest cars from Bentley, with getting into Rolls-Royce Phantom territory, driving a Cadillac, like an electric Cadillac, as the shifter from an Escalade. How could it possibly be that? Well, I don't really have that question anymore. A couple things that I really like about this car. Number one, I'm a total convert on the way it looks. I was always kind of into the way it looks because I think it's cool that they did this daring design, but I mean, obviously a hatchback is a bizarre decision. They went with it, and frankly, I think they did a good job. I think this car looks absolutely striking, and that's proven by the sheer number of people who are staring at it when I'm going by. Now, I'm in Detroit, everybody's in the car industry here, and everybody's kind of peripherally paying attention to cars here, but nonetheless, like, this car has a lot of road presence. Okay, so there's that. But then the thing I was really questioning was, you know, does Cadillac really truly have it in them to create a vehicle at this level? And I'll tell you something, driving this car, yeah, I actually legitimately think they do. I'm really impressed with the way that this car drives. Okay, let's start with comfort. It is just so wonderfully tranquil and serene in here. You don't hear anything going out there. I'm sitting next to a giant truck. I hear none of that. There's a busy road in front of me right now. I hear none of that. This car is completely serene and completely removes you from any of that stuff. It is just really nice. And then there's just the ride comfort. You know, this car has a bit of a like bold, kind of sporty look to it, and you don't really expect it to be a comfortable ride. It is a comfortable ride. This feels every bit as comfortable as top dog, big, hardcore luxury sedans, Mercedes-Benz S-Class, Maybach S-Class, I just reviewed one, feels like that. And those are obviously cars that are approaching 250, 300. The Flying Spur, I think it's on that level, feels like that. It's also just a comfortable seat, it's a comfortable, everything about it is just very tranquil, very serene, like you kind of dream that a full-size luxury sedan like this is. This car dynamically is actually pretty good. The Cadillac people were telling me, oh, get it out there and take some good roads. And I'm like, come on, like this is a 6,500 pound car. It's longer than an Escalade. I'm actually impressed. It's a wide car, and obviously width really allows you to get some good dynamics out of a vehicle. And it feels solid. It feels surprisingly spry. The steering is surprisingly quick. It's not a sports car, but it's not as far off as you might think. If you've driven a CT5V Blackwing, you can tell kind of where the DNA is coming from to create this car. And the other cool thing I really think is neat about this car, like I was just mentioning, is the solidity. No matter how many times the Americans have tried, one place I think they have always basically fallen short against German and European competitors, the cars just don't feel solid. And that's not true here. This is a car deserving of a full-size, ultra-luxury sedan sort of mindset and feeling. It really has that feel to it. It has that weight that you expect from a vehicle in the class where this is trying to compete. And it's fast. Like, this is a quick car. The 665 horsepower accelerates very quickly. It's fast. It just would have been cool to have seen this with a V12, which I imagine would have been on the table if they had done this 10 years ago. It's great. It's fine, but it's every electric car. You know, a smooth, competent, quick powertrain, doesn't make a lot of noise, but also doesn't come with a lot of character. And I think it's fitting with a car like this, given that it's, you know, a full-size luxury sedan intended to be quiet and smooth, and this powertrain very much works with that. And the range is fine and all that. Count me as a surprising Celestiq convert. I still think I think the price point is reasonable for what this is, but I think it's going to be a really hard sell for a Cadillac to human people. Like, I think that's going to be tough to convince people of, even though if you compare it against rivals, it really feels like it stands up. But the brand is the hard sell at this price point, even if everything else they got right. And from my perspective, driving this car, looking at this car, they really did get everything else right. I'm surprised and delighted. And so that's the new Cadillac Celestiq. Wow. This is a truly impressive ultra-luxury sedan. It has an incredible aura, a real presence thanks to its striking design, plus great tech, good performance, and you can customize basically everything. But is the world ready for a $400,000 Cadillac luxury sedan? It's hard to believe. I'm not sure this is going to be a hit, but it is fantastic. And not just Cadillac fantastic, really fantastic. And now it's time to give the Celestiq a DougScore. And the DougScore is here, 69 out of 100, which puts the Celestiq here, near the very top among its ultra-luxury rivals. Truthfully, I think the Celestiq is as good or better than Rolls-Royce and Bentley in terms of ride quality, materials, fit and finish, design and style, and tech. It truly is an American Rolls-Royce. The drawback, and the reason the Celestiq scores only a paltry 3 in value, is the Cadillac brand name. This is a cool car, Rolls-Royce level, but it's priced like a Rolls-Royce without the badge to back it up. I foresee major depreciation and slow sales until the Cadillac brand name is elevated to the level of this amazing car.